Many thanks for choosing us. The General Secretary of the governing New Patriotic Party has taken a swipe at some civil society organizations who have called on the police to invite the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Bryan Acheampong, for saying the NPP will not hand over power to the NDC in 2024. The comments by Bryan Acheampong whilst addressing party faithful in Kwewu over the weekend has been criticized, especially by the NDC, who have called for his arrest. But speaking to our sister station at Dome TV, Justin Frimpong Kodua argued that there was nothing wrong with Bryan Acheampong's comments and the calls for his arrest are misplaced.
New Patriotic Party, any party, ye to trust him. Ye party, sebi, yesuso no maswa, enfan kabum, enfan puntumbo mem. Check our record from 92.
The New Patriotic Party is not a party of violence. We don't condone things which do not bring peace and development. Check our history. We are the political party that has deepened democracy the most in this country.
He said, "Ye to abano ene ya momo wini." If it's a sabre no now be sha. Fango boa koso 1820.
The NDC believed that given the challenges we have been facing as a country, they will win if an election was held. Fuel prices went up, the cedi was struggling against the dollar. But things are beginning to stabilize now because of the intervention of government. Fuel prices are dropping, the cedi is doing well. So in 2024, the NDC will collapse. This is the context in which Bryan Acheampong
said, "We have the men,
When Bryan said we have the men, he did not mean men to perpetrate violence, but the educated and brave men in our party. He made a rightful statement. There is nothing wrong with what he said. I'm surprised some civil society organizations are calling on the IGP to invite Bryan. For what?
For further clarification.
The NDC, however, feels comments by Bryan Acheampong has the potential of subverting the will of the people. And according to the director of the party's legal directorate, Abraham Amaleba, the NDC will be petitioning the CID and the IGP to arrest and prosecute Bryan Acheampong.
I can confirm to you that today, the Legal Affairs Directorate would deliver a petition to the CID boss, as well as the Inspector General of Police. This petition is to call for the arrest and prosecution of Bryan Acheampong for his unsavory comments, which was made during the Easter break. We of the Legal Affairs Directorate of the NDC are of the view that his comments have the potential of subverting the will of the people during the 2024 election. And so, yes, I can confirm to you that today at round about 2 p.m., we would present a formal petition for the arrest and prosecution of Bryan Acheampong.
Joining me via Zoom for more is Reverend Dr. N.S. Edujemfi. He's the chairman of the National Peace Council. I'm grateful for your time, sir, for joining us this afternoon. You must be worried about hate speeches in the lead up to the 2024 elections, especially considering the heated atmosphere we have already.
National Peace Council is a little bit anxious about events taking place now. In February, we held a meeting with the General Secretary, the chairman of the major political parties in our office, to look at events surrounding our preparation towards the election for next year. We deliberated on several issues, including speeches by political actors. Within the same month, we also released the guide on interpretive language and call on political actors to be very careful with what they say, how they say it, and its implications on the country. Subsequently, we have received various footages from various political actors on statements that have been made, including the current one, that we think are not in line with some of the discussions we've had already. We want to use this opportunity to appeal to all political actors. Please abide by the code and the conduct that we have all agreed to, so that we can keep the peace of this country the way it ought to be kept. But after all these happenings, the council will be bringing together again the general secretaries and the chairman of the parties as a follow-up to the discussion we had earlier, so that we can continue the discussion to make sure that people don't just go out and say anything that will disrupt the peace of the country.
So what's the Peace Council's plan to actually ensure that the country remains peacefully even before and during and after the 2024 elections?
In the first place, the guide for intemperate language has already been issued. The engagements will continue between us and the various political actors to ensure that we all stay and conform with all the things that we've agreed to do. We'll continue the engagement, we'll consistently pursue those things and ensure that at the end of the day, we bring stability to our country. This is the only country we have, there's nothing else, and therefore we want to appeal to every political actor. Be very careful with what you say and how you say it. Your intentions might be good, your intentions might be clear, but if you don't choose your words properly, you can create chaos within the country.
We all agree that we do not encourage such speeches because definitely it has a way of charging the people. But how serious should we take such speeches coming from politicians, especially in this season?
Well, the statements can be inciting, but the fact is that we've all been in this country. We realize that once elections are won at the polling station, you can't change the results. Therefore, people should sometimes listen to these statements and be mindful of the fact that elections are won at the polling station. You can't do anything about it. And therefore, parties ought to be vigilant. They send their observers to the stations and make sure that it is counted properly. Once the results are declared, that's it. Nobody can change the results at the end of what happens at each of the polling stations. And so we hear some of these things. It looks inciting, but the public should be able to discern that sometimes it's not just what you say, but the reality on the ground. We've seen parties in power who've lost elections. We've seen parties in power who have won elections. We've seen all of those things. And therefore, we don't just take just a statement that has been made by somebody and just begin to fight over it.
There's been calls for people like that to be arrested. For instance, Bryan Acheampong, there's been calls from all angles for the police to arrest him so that we can curtail such speeches coming from politicians. Is it far-fetched?
Well, the Peace Council normally wouldn't get into those things. If somebody makes a statement or does something that is illegal and criminal, it's the responsibility of the police. They have to do that. So in those areas, we don't normally want to get into that kind of discussion. But we are mindful of the fact that we have to do everything to maintain the peace that this country is enjoying. That is what is our mandate, and we pursue that.
I'm grateful for your time. Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfe, he's chairman of the National Peace Council. Meanwhile, former President John Dramani Mahama says the NDC is unshaken by Bryan Acheampong's outburst of not handing over power to the NDC. According to Mr. Mahama, regardless of the stance taken by the NPP, the NDC will not underplay the role of God in the next elections. My colleague Kofi Sian is with the former president. He joins me with some updates. Kofi, tell us more about the former president's reaction to Bryan Acheampong's comments.
So the former president currently is in a Kropon where he's meeting with delegates of the party from Ebri, Kropon itself, and from Okre constituency. So in his speech to the people, that is when he stated that the statement by the Member of Parliament for Abetifi constituency, Bryan Acheampong, was reckless and it should be condemned by all. He says that the NDC do take the statement with a pinch of salt. They're not going to rest on their oars to ensure that they win the next general elections. The flag bearer hopeful also stated that it is God that maketh a king and that the NPP, despite all the, all the machinations they want to employ in the next elections, they seek the face of God, and with that, they are very hopeful that the NDC is going to emerge victorious in the general elections.
How is he also reacting to calls by his own party for the IGP to cause the arrest of Bryan Acheampong?
Okay, the former president, in his statement or in his speech, has not touched on that aspect of the whole issue. Maybe in his next campaign tour, that is the Yellow Club, I'm very hopeful or very sure that he's going to touch on that. But for now, that is the comment he's been making about the Abetifi MP's outburst.
Kofi Sian is our correspondent in the Eastern region. We'll definitely bring you more as the former president tours the area.